Charlotte, 34, Richmond, Virginia. The scent hit me the moment I opened the car door. I flinched, blinking as the humid July air mixed with something else, something sour. Faint, but undeniably human. I looked into the backseat where my 8-year-old nephew, Caleb, was curled up, arms crossed, hoodie zipped to the top despite the 90-degree heat. "Caleb, honey, didn't your mom say you'd showered before I picked you up?" He didn't look at me. Just shrugged. Typical Caleb. Quiet. Nervous. A little odd, but he'd been through a lot since my brother remarried. I didn't press. I just rolled down the windows and told myself it wasn't my place. But after 3 days of staying at my house while my brother and his wife, Amanda, were in Cabo, I couldn't ignore it anymore. The boy reeked. He wouldn't change his clothes. Wouldn't let me wash them. Wouldn't shower. And when I tried to help him bathe, he screamed, not a tantrum, but a raw, animal terror. "Baby, what is going on?" I asked gently, crouching beside his bed on the 3rd night. He stared at the ceiling. Then rolled away from me. "I can't," he whispered. "It hurts when the water touches me." My heart dropped. "Are you sick? Is something wrong with your skin?" He didn't answer. That night, I called my brother. "Jared, something's not right with Caleb. He's scared of water. Like, terrified. And he smells so bad, it's like he hasn't bathed in weeks." Jared sighed heavily. "Yeah, Amanda's been dealing with that. Kid's just sensitive. You know how he is." But I didn't know. Not like this. The next morning, I snuck into the laundry room and opened his duffel bag. All his clothes were balled up and rank, but something about the hoodie bothered me. It felt stiff. I turned it inside out. That's when I saw the stain. Deep red, faded, but unmistakable. Blood. My stomach flipped. And stitched into the inside lining, so carefully it must have taken hours, was a name I hadn't heard in years. Emily. My sister's name. But Emily had been dead for 5 years. I stared at the name like it had punched me in the face. Emily. My older sister. Dead from a car accident 5 years ago. Gone in an instant. No warning, no goodbye. We'd buried her with that name etched into our bones. But Caleb. Caleb had never met her. He was born 2 years after she died. So how did her name end up sewn into the lining of his hoodie? I sat there, heart thudding against my ribs, gripping the fabric like it could talk. "Caleb," I said, voice shaking, walking back to his room. "Sweetheart, can you come here for a second?" He hesitated in the doorway, already retreating into himself. His eyes flicked to the hoodie in my hand. And that's when something shattered in his expression. He ran. Bolted down the hall like a frightened deer. "Caleb, wait." I followed him into the backyard where he stood behind the tree swing, back pressed to the bark, clutching his sides. "Where did you get this hoodie?" I asked softly. "Did someone give it to you?" He stared past me. Silent. "Do you know who Emily is?" Silence. But his bottom lip started to tremble. I dropped to my knees in the grass. "Baby, you're safe here. You can tell me. Did someone hurt you?" He swallowed hard. His little voice barely made it out. "She was my mom." Everything around me went still. The grass, the wind, the faint buzz of a lawnmower 2 houses down, all of it just stopped. "No," I said slowly. "Your mom is Amanda. She's married to your dad. Remember?" Caleb shook his head. "She tells me to call her that. But she's not my real mom. Emily is. Dad said so, when he was mad once." I felt like I'd been shoved underwater. My sister was his mother. But she died 5 years ago. And Caleb was 8. The math didn't add up, until it did. I stumbled back to my feet and rushed inside, heart racing. Jared was my twin. We shared everything. There's no way he could have. No. Not Jared. There was one other man in Emily's life back then. My husband. Tobias. The blood drained from my face. I don't remember climbing the stairs. I only remember my fingers trembling as I opened the top drawer of our nightstand, heart in my throat. Tobias kept everything there, charges, receipts, a manila envelope he never let me touch. I'd asked about it once, half joking. He told me it was just old business contracts. Boring stuff, babe, he'd said, kissing my temple like nothing in the world could ever be wrong. But now, the envelope felt radioactive. I pulled it out, tore it open, and spilled the contents across the bed. Bills, hospital papers, and a birth certificate. Caleb James Dunn. Mother, Emily Marie Brennan. Father, Tobias Nathaniel Dunn. I sank onto the edge of the bed like someone had ripped the floor out from under me. Tobias, my husband, had a child, with my sister, and never told me. Did Jared know? Did Amanda? My head spun. My whole body was shaking, but I couldn't scream, couldn't cry. I just sat there, staring at my name scribbled on the marriage license I'd signed 3 years after Emily died. He knew. All along. He must have. The man who rubbed my feet when I was sick, who whispered that I was his only one, who'd stood beside me at Emily's funeral, had slept with her. Impregnated her. And somehow, Jared had ended up raising that child as his own. I couldn't breathe. I picked up my phone and texted Amanda. Need to talk. Now. Urgent. 3 dots. Then her reply. Can't. In Cabo. What's going on? I didn't answer. I called Jared directly. He picked up on the second ring, his voice groggy. Cha. Everything okay? I swallowed the lump in my throat. Jared. I need to ask you something. And I need you to tell me the truth. He sighed. Is this about Caleb again? It's about his birth certificate. I found it. Silence. I waited. 1 second. 2. 10. Then he said something I'll never forget. I thought Tobias would have burned that by now. I nearly dropped the phone. You knew. I whispered. I didn't know until Emily was gone, he said, voice tight. Tobias told me at the funeral. He said they'd been seeing each other. She never told anyone she was pregnant. I didn't even know until the hospital called me. I thought. You took him in. What was I supposed to do, Charlotte? He snapped. Leave my own nephew in the system. I raised him like my own to protect you. To protect me. My voice cracked. So everyone had known. Everyone except me. I looked up and saw Caleb in the hallway, standing barefoot, tears on his cheeks. I'm sorry, he whispered. Caleb stood frozen in the hallway, small hands twisting the hem of his stained hoodie. I didn't mean to ruin everything, he said quietly. I crossed the room in 2 steps and dropped to my knees. No, baby, you didn't ruin anything. His chin trembled. I heard you talking. I know I'm not supposed to know. I pulled him into my arms. He felt so small, so breakable. And all I could think about was how many times I'd looked into his face and thought he resembled someone, but never let my mind go there. Because I trusted Tobias. Because I thought I was safe in my marriage. In my family. How long have you known? I whispered. He looked up. Since I was 5. I found a letter, in the attic. It was from her. From Emily. She said she loved me. That she never meant to keep me a secret. That she was scared. I closed my eyes. Does Tobias? I stopped myself. Does he know you know? He nodded. He told me to never say anything. That it would destroy Aunt Charlotte. My stomach flipped. Rage and heartbreak collided like a thunderclap inside me. He gets mad when I don't bathe, Caleb added, voice barely audible. But when I wear this, he touched the hoodie, he stays away. I think he hates it. I think it reminds him of her. Oh my God. That's why he wouldn't take it off. It was protection. Armor. The one piece of his mother he had left. I wanted to burn everything Tobias had ever touched. But I couldn't fall apart. Not yet. Instead, I held Caleb tighter and whispered, You are not a mistake. And you are not a secret anymore. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room with every light off, staring at the cold blue glow of my laptop screen. Researching. Reading. learning about wrongful parental assignment, fraudulent paternity, withholding of vital identity information, everything. And by dawn, I had a plan. I called a lawyer first. A good one. A woman who'd once helped a friend of mine with a brutal custody battle. I told her everything. She was quiet for a long time. Then said, if this child's identity was deliberately falsified, and if you can prove your husband knowingly manipulated the documents and concealed the truth, you might have grounds for legal action. Serious grounds. I asked what kind. She answered with one word, fraud. I hung up and stared out the window, heart still racing. Then I heard the front door unlock. Tobias was home. The front door creaked open, just as the sun spilled its first light across the hardwood floors. Tobias's voice drifted in casually. Babe. I came home early. Flight landed at 6. Surprise. I didn't answer. He appeared in the kitchen doorway seconds later, still in his travel blazer, rolling a carry-on behind him and smiling like a man who hadn't just detonated my life. Charlotte, he said again, slower this time. You okay? I stood across the room, hands braced on the back of a dining chair, laptop closed but still humming. I found the birth certificate, I said. His smile flickered. You left it in the drawer. Caleb's. With Emily's name on it. A beat of silence. His throat bobbed. Charlotte, listen. I held up my hand. Don't. Not yet. He took a careful step forward, like I was an animal that might bolt. You're upset, I get that. But I swear, it's not what it looks like. Really? I laughed, bitter and hoarse. Because it looks exactly like what it is. You slept with my sister. You got her pregnant. And you let her die with that secret rotting inside her. Then you married me like nothing ever happened. His eyes dropped to the floor. How long? I asked. How long were you two? 6 months, he whispered. I turned away, the sound of it slicing through me. She was vulnerable, he added quickly. After that breakup with. I don't even remember the guy's name. She was lost. We weren't serious. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. But it did. He exhaled. She never told me she was pregnant. Char. I swear to God. I didn't find out until after she died. Jared came to me, furious. Said the hospital had called him because he was her emergency contact. I was ready to step up, but Jared insisted Caleb would have a better life with him and Amanda. He begged me to walk away. I stared at him, disgust crawling up my spine. You didn't walk away, though. You stayed close. You married me. You built a life around a lie. He stepped closer. I didn't marry you because of guilt, Charlotte. I married you because I loved you. I stared at the man I thought I knew. The man who'd told me I was his one and only. And I realized, he hadn't just lied to me. He'd rewritten history. I want you out, I said coldly. Today. Before Caleb wakes up. His jaw tightened. Are you really going to throw our marriage away over something that happened years ago? I met his eyes. No. I'm going to bury it. He didn't understand what I meant. But he would. Tobias was gone by noon. He didn't fight me, not really. Just packed in silence. Slammed the trunk of his car a little too hard. Drove off without a single look back. I didn't cry. I had no tears left for liars. By sunset, I was in my lawyer's office. Do you want to file for divorce immediately, or wait until we have more leverage? She asked, scrolling through documents. Leverage. I echoed. She gave me a sharp look. If he forged or concealed paternity documents, or colluded with Jared to keep the child's origin hidden from legal records, that's actionable. Especially if it was done to manipulate you or control Caleb's narrative. My chest tightened. I don't care about spiting him. I care about Caleb. He's the one they failed. All of them. My lawyer nodded. So let's protect him. We'll start with a petition for a formal custody inquiry and request a full disclosure of Caleb's guardianship documents. Jared will never agree to that, I muttered. She leaned in. He won't have a choice. The next morning, I took Caleb out for pancakes. Just the two of us. He sat across from me in his signature hoodie, head down, playing with his syrup. "Can I ask you something?" I said. He nodded. "If you could live anywhere, with anyone, who would it be?" He looked up slowly. "With you." I smiled, swallowing the lump in my throat. "And if I wanted to help you stay with me forever, would that be okay?" He nodded again, and this time, he smiled. It was small. Fragile. But it was real. By the end of the week, Jared and Amanda were back from Cabo, and they were furious. "Are you serious, Cha?" Jared barked over the phone. "You're trying to take Caleb from us." "I'm trying to give him the truth," I snapped. "Which neither of you saw fit to do." Amanda chimed in. "We raised him. He thinks we're his parents." "No, Amanda. He thinks you're the people who make him afraid to take a bath." Silence. "You may have loved him," I added, softer now. "But love without honesty is just control." The next morning, my lawyer filed the paperwork. Request for emergency guardianship reassessment. Petition for investigation into suppressed paternity records. Within days, subpoenas were sent. Tobias tried calling. 38 times. I didn't answer once. But I did forward every voicemail to my lawyer. Because the next phase wasn't just about truth. It was about exposure. The court date was set for the following month. But the fallout started far earlier. Within 2 weeks, Jared's law firm placed him on administrative leave. Apparently, knowingly concealing a child's legal parentage, especially while signing off on custody documents, wasn't something they could sweep under the rug. Amanda's PTA presidency. Gone. Her circle of yoga moms. Vanished. Because the moment my lawyer filed for a protective review of Caleb's psychological well-being, citing emotional manipulation and fear-based conditioning, everything unraveled. And then there was Tobias. I didn't hear from him again directly. But his name was on every document. Every filed complaint. Every piece of evidence showing he'd known the truth, and married me anyway. My lawyer called it fraud by deception. I called it betrayal with a wedding band. Meanwhile, Caleb stayed with me full-time under emergency custody while the review was underway. I took him to therapy, bought him new clothes, let him pick out his own soap. One night, after dinner, he called out, "Aunt Charlotte." "Yeah, baby." He stood in the hallway, bare feet on the hardwood. I took a bath. I blinked. "You did." He nodded. I didn't cry this time. It just felt nice. My throat clenched. "That's wonderful, sweetheart. I'm so proud of you." He smiled, and it was different this time. Like freedom. A week before our court date, Tobias's attorney made an offer. They proposed joint mediation to avoid full litigation. They'd relinquish Tobias's informal parental claims, quietly correct the birth record, and keep it all out of the press if I dropped the civil fraud claim and allowed supervised visits. I said no. I didn't want their money. I wanted accountability. And I wanted the world to know what they'd done. So I made one final move. I sent the full case file, sanitized for Caleb's privacy, but thorough, to the local journalist who'd once written Emily's obituary. And then I sat on the porch, Caleb sleeping upstairs, the night breeze brushing against my skin, waiting for everything to come down. The article dropped 2 days later. Headline: Family Secrets, Hidden Paternity, a Sister's Betrayal, and the Boy Who Wouldn't Bathe. By morning, it was everywhere. Talk radio. Social media. Even the local news station. My inbox was flooded with messages. Some were cruel. But most were filled with quiet solidarity. Other women. Other betrayals. Other secrets. But none of them had an ending yet. Mine did. The courtroom smelled like old wood and worn-out lies. I sat beside my lawyer, hands folded tightly in my lap. Across from me, Jared, pale and sweaty in his suit. Amanda beside him, eyes bloodshot. Tobias sat 2 rows behind them, alone. Silent. Caleb wasn't there. I didn't want him anywhere near this part of the story. The judge, an older woman with silver hair and zero tolerance for drama, read through our documentation slowly. Then faster. Her expression grew tighter the longer she read. At one point, she stopped, looked up, and asked quietly, "Was the child ever told the truth about his parents by any of the original guardians?" I shook my head. "Only by me, Your Honor." She nodded once. That was all she needed. By the end of the hour, I had full legal guardianship of Caleb, effective immediately. Jared and Amanda retained no parental rights. Tobias's involvement was formally recorded as fraudulent. The amended birth certificate would reflect the truth. Mother, Emily Brennan. Father, Tobias Dunn. Guardian, Charlotte Brennan. I walked out into the sunlight feeling both light and heavy. Like justice had finally caught up, but grief hadn't let go yet. When I got home, Caleb was on the couch, hoodie gone, wrapped in a soft yellow blanket. His eyes lit up when he saw me. "Well?" he asked. I knelt in front of him. "You're home," I said. "For good." He smiled. "Can I still call you Aunt Charlotte?" "Forever, baby." That night, I tucked him into bed and found something on his pillow, a drawing. Crayon lines. A stick figure house. A smiling woman with big curly hair. And next to her, a boy in a hoodie. At the top, in shaky handwriting, it read, "Me and my real family." I pressed it to my chest, heart swelling. Weeks passed. Jared tried to reach out. Once. I didn't reply. Amanda went silent. Tobias. I heard he'd moved out of state. No forwarding address. I didn't care. Because Caleb started smiling more. Because the nightmares stopped. Because every time he stepped out of the bath now, he looked clean in more ways than one. And one afternoon, months later, I found him sitting by the window, tracing his finger over the rain on the glass. "You know what I remember?" he asked softly. I shook my head. When I was little, the water hurt because it felt like secrets washing off. Like I wasn't allowed to be clean. My eyes stung. But now, he turned to me. Now it feels like starting over. I kissed the top of his head. That's exactly what it is.